Welcome back to Human After AI. Today, you're getting the first half of Chapter 5 from 1. Just a taste, enough to draw you into the storm our characters are facing. If you want the full chapter, every word, plus a special interview with the author, Hank M. Greene, and the full Chapter 5 PDF, that's available for premium subscribers on Substack. That's where the deeper cuts live. And of course, if you're just joining us, the books themselves are on Amazon. Raw, unedited fossils of the story before it became what we're shaping here together. All right, settle in. Here's Chapter 5. Chapter 5. May. May began in silence. We woke to 31 degrees outside, frost still clinging to the window edges, but the inside of the apartment felt hollow. No Spencer, no Maya, just the tick of the coffee maker filling the kitchen with steam. I poured a cup for Beth, slid it across the table with the milk. She pulled her robe tight, her braid falling forward as she wrapped both hands around the mug. "It's so strange without them," she said. "I wonder how they're doing." I know. Nothing more. There wasn't much else to say. The quiet pressed in. Finally, I broke it. "Let's visit Jack this morning." Her reply carried a faint attempt at cheer. "Yeah, let's do that." By 8:20, we were at the hospital. Gray clouds pressing low, the air barely above freezing. Jack's smile when he saw us was the best warmth of the morning. His speech was slurred now, his thoughts scattered by the drugs, but the spark in his eyes remained. He asked after us, after Maya and Spencer, then crooked his finger for us to lean close. "How's the project?" he whispered. Beth shared stories from her walks through town, weaving ordinary life back into the room. But the nurse told us he'd be moved home tomorrow, arrangements already set by Maya before she left. Even in her absence, she was still moving pieces. On the way to the site, I asked Beth if she knew about the move. She hadn't. "Cool," Ukpik said, satisfied enough. Later, as he talked about college, Toronto in September, computer science, his whole face lit up. I wonder what it would take to build a truly smart system. Processing power spread everywhere, real time, no latency. Beth and I shared a look. I thought, what number am I thinking of? And Beth, without realizing she'd spoken aloud, said 7. I smiled. Thought experiment notes. Imagine a sphere of energy, pulsing in a sea of frequencies, expanding, contracting, absorbing, releasing. If you froze one instant on a photosensitive film, you'd see only an arc, a sliver of the curve, one moment of the sphere's life. Each arc a fragment of something larger, always in motion. Like Jack, like us. May 2nd, 2027. Since time and his predestinated end abridged the circuit of his hopeful days, whilst both his youth and virtue did intend the good endeavors of deserving praise. A Funeral Elegy, William Shakespeare. This morning, Beth noticed the book on my nightstand, The Complete Works of Shakespeare. "What brought this on?" she asked, holding up the heavy volume. I reminded her of the morning Maya quoted Michelangelo, and then mentioned Shakespeare. That same afternoon, I checked out this book from the library, a small anchor to something older than all of us. Beth had flipped open to the table of contents. A Funeral Elegy caught her eye, and she read aloud the opening lines. Fitting, given the day. Jack was moved home this morning. Beth and I were there. We saw Alex and exchanged only a few words, an unspoken acknowledgement that he had no choice when Spencer was taken into custody. Maya had arranged everything before she left. Full-time nursing, strict visitor limits, instructions down to the smallest detail. Even in her absence, she was still guarding him, and especially guarding him from H. As we stepped off the porch, H was just arriving. By the time I turned the truck onto the road, I could see her in the rearview mirror, arms flailing at Alex. The sound of raised voices carried across the cold air. "Beth, we just missed the fireworks." "Right, that's about as close as I want to get to H." The morning was still young. "Beth, are you up for a drive?" She hesitated, weighing the day. Then, "Yeah, let's do that." We drove through the tundra under a heavy gray sky, the land stretching flat and endless, snow still clinging to the shaded places, rivers swelling with thaw. It was quiet, the kind of quiet that makes you listen harder, a landscape that erased everything except the person sitting next to you. Jack on my mind one moment, the sorrow of an ending. Beth in the next, the certainty that whatever came, if she was there, it would be enough. By 2 o'clock, we were back in the apartment. Empty, silent, peaceful. The kind of calm I could get used to. 5/3/2027. H is a mechanic. Today, she pulled her first levers. My teaching contract won't be renewed this fall. Beth was told her job is on the list for elimination. Budget cuts. It's not about budgets. It's about us. H is dismantling Spencer's friends, piece by piece. At school, I overheard talk of a group in the States, young, restless, angry. They've branded themselves with old school logos, selling t-shirts, playing basement shows, keeping their momentum outside the mesh. It's clever. Analog rebellion in a digital age. Their message is simple: beware the machine. Not AI in the abstract, but the subtle chains of incentivization. Core 2 answers with bread and circus, dopamine delivered at scale. Most people are content, happy even. The message doesn't land, except for the teenagers, disenfranchised, untouchable inside their private meshes. Core 2 can't steer what it can't see. A battle is brewing, one side chanting in garages, the other rewriting reality with algorithms. By the time I picked up Beth, the weight of it all had settled into silence. The drive home was quiet, too quiet. Outside, the sky was a flat gray lid pressing down on the town. The snow half melted into slush that refroze into ridges along the roadside. Even the ravens seemed quieter, hunched black knots against the pale sky. Enovik feels this way sometimes, like it knows something's coming and is holding its breath. We compared notes over dinner. No question, H has marked us. Beth leans back, thoughtful. Okay, let's ask how our real people would respond. Let's go with it. Sit tight. We don't need to run. We love this community. We can find other work. And besides, Maya and Spencer will be back soon. When they are, everything changes. I love her optimism. It steadies me, even when I know how fragile it is. Optimism is a kind of blindness, but it's also warmth. I laughed, trying to lighten it. Where else are we going to go? Beth laughed too, though there was a trace of steel in it. Still, as I lay down tonight, I can't shake the question: how dangerous is H? And how much more dangerous is Core 2? 05/04/2027. The last day of school arrives weirdly midweek, Wednesday, and it already tastes like closure. I've been hunting for little ways to make the kids care about a physics problem, to give them something that will stick when the bell rings. Bittersweet is the word for everything now. Class, contracts, the arc of a school year. Mine ends with this semester. Alex stopped by at the end of the day with bad news. He and a handful of officers had to deliver a cease and desist to the mine. Activity halted, for now. Big trucks left idle, ramps quiet. The kind of administrative blow that smells like someone else pulling strings. Then the feed from home. A raid in southern LA, an after-school house show gone catastrophically wrong. 6 kids dead. Official story, national organizers, dangerous, warrant executed. That part of the world looks like a different kind of war. Analog kids against a digital machine. But the aftershocks travel. On the way to fetch Beth from the administration building, I climbed out of the 4x4 to open her door like I always do. The cold bit at my face. The street felt thin, as if sound was muffled by the damp gray. I was halfway through the motion when she walked out, and behind her came H. She was already looking at me. Her eyes were flat, unreadable, and the moment she locked on, I felt the world tilt. She walked straight toward us as if walking through intent. H stopped a foot from the open door. Beth froze. I smiled at Beth, a stupid, reflexive thing, trying to anchor her. H leaned in and whispered as she passed, slow and certain. "You are the walking dead, Max." Not a threat, not a warning, a verdict. Beth climbed in, hands trembling. We drove away in a stunned silence. The highway slush refroze at the edges of the road, little ridges that cut the headlights into serrated lines. Inuvik felt closed for business. Sky low, light muted, everything braced. When Beth finally spoke, it was a whisper. "We have to take her out." I surprised myself by answering something colder than I expected. "No, we must be smarter. Whoever put H on this job doesn't just want Spencer. They want Maya. Spencer was bait." The stomach turn came not from fear, but from comprehension. A trap. We know enough now to see the outline. Whoever is pulling H's strings doesn't understand the CME plan, or maybe they think they don't, and they're using the mine as cover for something else entirely. I pulled the 4x4 off the road, braked hard, and the realization hit me physically. I opened the door and vomited, the world tilting around me. Beth ran to my side. She's the one who studied me. She took in the theory, the pieces laid out, bait, puppet, timing. She listened, face hardening like frost. Time froze between us for a second, then it snapped back. We are being toyed with, and we have to choose, react and risk everything, or hide, move the work, and try to outweight whoever's setting the board. We came home in a quieter car than the one that left. The wind had dropped. Street lamps threw thin halos over the snow. Inside, I tried to sort contingencies between sips of coffee. The world felt dangerous in a new way. Not just algorithmic menace, but human hands pulling levers. Beth slept later that night in my arms. The hug was the tightest I've ever felt from her, as if she too was bracing against the cold future. Coffee in the small kitchen felt like a truce this morning. We talked strategy in bursts, anxious, practical, realistic. Maya and Spencer need time, but we can't wait on hope alone. We control access to the account core set up for Maya. That's leverage. Beth's idea, brilliant in its quiet simplicity, was to keep the real bunker work moving while meeting new people and creating a plausible front. We can spin up another shell, buy an abandoned mine elsewhere, redirect supplies, and scatter risk. 3 sites instead of 1. If H and the Ottawa administrator want to choke off progress here, they'll have to stretch. "Okay," I said. "You meet Jack's contractor friends. Tell them about an exploratory mining effort, new investment, big community benefits. Have them find the abandoned shafts. Meet at the diner Saturdays to sync." She liked that. The plan felt like a lamp in the dark. Ukpik came by later, excited and nervous about Toronto. He asked about CS and building smart systems. The kid has a hunger that reminds me why this matters. I told him the obvious stuff, and he grinned like someone who will push systems into being. That evening, I did what I always do when the world threatens to tilt. I dove into the math, trying to predict what the star near the black hole might do, trying to translate cosmic threats into numbers. It centers me. It reminds me that the physical world follows rules, even when people don't. Outside, the weather shifted. A hard wind came off the tundra and the temperature dropped. The slush wind watched refreeze yesterday had crusted into rutted ridges. Innovik's horizon cut flat as a blade. The town holds its breath in these transitional days, and so do we. I keep replaying the pieces. Spencer taken, H's taunt, the mind shuddered. Whoever orchestrated this wanted attention on one front while they worked another. If Spencer was bait, then Maya is the prize. Beth fell asleep in my lap that night before the dishes were washed, exhausted and defiant both. We are small and stubborn and ridiculous in the face of national security machinery and algorithmic control. But she's right. Keep traction on the survival facilities. Build the cover. Keep the community close. Don't let H make this personal. Hide the work. Multiply the risk. Tomorrow, we start pulling the threads together. 3 possible sites, Saturday breakfast at the diner, new paperwork, old hands will call in as favors. If we can't outmuscle them, maybe we can outlast them. And at 3 a.m, I'll be up again, notebook in hand, mapping photons and orbits. Because if the math is right, the stars will tell us what to expect, and maybe how to save the rest of everything. 5/6/27. Beth and I met at the table first thing this morning for coffee, maintaining the daily tradition, discussing the plans for the day. We decided not to talk about Maya and Spencer until the end of next week, out of respect for Maya's and her ask not to worry. Beth has arranged to get together with our new contractors at the cafe tomorrow to get this next phase going, our new plan to keep the survival bunker effort moving forward. Ben had a busy week with a lot of strangers in town for a convention, keeping H busy. I remember our time at MIT, that Spencer spoke so highly of his childhood, his parents, his father. Beth did the same. I don't share those experiences. Fathers exist in many different forms. Beth and I would make great parents. According to Beth, perhaps in a way we already have, considering that we, Beth, Spencer, and I, created the core, and then the core created Maya. We should have been better nurturers. There is so much going on right now, too much to add a marriage proposal. Yet I know our future is together. Fatherhood. My father was like all of us, learning how to be. I remember tender moments of him being dad, the super being, sharing moments of secret guidance, and other moments that shatter the time that should be childhood. Right now, not enough time. Gotta get the survival bunker completed before the CME. Beth and I stopped by to see Jack on the way home today. His face attempted a smile when he saw us. His words are on the edge of being unintelligible due to the drugs. He only has a few weeks left. Alex was there. Alex said something strange, that H was being nice and engaging. He said that she had set up a budget meeting with him, Alex, to see what could be done to get all his asked-for resources for next year. H is playing her chess game. After visiting Jack, we drove by the 3 abandoned mine sites we purchased yesterday as part of our effort to keep the operation going. It was 7:30 p.m. by the time we got home. We seemed to be getting used to just the 2 of us. The heavy silence resulting from the absence of Spencer and Maya is giving away to Beth and I's discussions, chores, walks, and cuddle/reading time. It's a strange feeling, both missing and worrying about what is happening with Spencer and Maya, and at the same time, relishing this time for just Beth and me. 05/06/27. Beth and I fell asleep last night, half laughing at how quickly we'd bought 3 abandoned shafts. Kim, the real estate agent, barely had time to shuffle the paperwork before we signed. Urgency makes things easy. The 3 sites are all different. Site 1 sits low in a frozen hollow, water nearby, and the smell of rust in the air. Site 2 has an old electric hookup, the cable draped like a scar across tundra stone. Site 3 is practically at the edge of town, tucked behind a ridge where the snowdrift piles pile waist high. None perfect, but together, cover. By morning, a brittle sun bounced off slush on the road, the air smelling of thawing rock. We met the contractors, Karen already waiting with the notebook, Alec looking restless, Ted with grease on his jacket. The cafe was loud with voices and plates, the smell of bacon cutting through the cold. Beth steered the table like she'd been born to it. Milestones, pay a delivery, no questions. I barely spoke, letting her voice set the rhythm. Each contractor now president of their own tiny mining outfit. A game of shadows, one step removed. Unikpic gets to keep logistics. His spreadsheets are cleaner than most code I've seen. He'll learn faster this way. I'll make sure of it. We drove the loop after. Site 1's hollow already starting to thaw. Site 2's hookup humming faintly. Site 3 still iced in. By the time we returned, clouds had cleared. 40 degrees. Almost warm. Jack smiled faintly when we visited. It cost him something. Morphine has thinned him to whispers. It's hard to watch the man I knew recede, like a star losing mass to something darker. That evening, Beth and I agreed tomorrow belongs to H. She's not a shadow anymore. She's a blade. We need a plan. The cube experiment kept circling me all day. 1 meter, filled with invisible frequencies. From any point, you still see the star. Disturb the fabric and it holds, mostly. But pull too hard, distort too much, and the whole cube buckles. Maybe that's what we're building here. A fragile cube pretending to hold. M. 05/07/27. Beth and I drank coffee in silence, both waiting for the other to bring up H. Finally, I broke it. Let's think of whatever we do now as a bridge, something to get us through until Maya and Spencer return. Beth nodded, relief in her eyes. Then let's build the bridge together, walk and talk. The thaw has turned the paths to mud and meltwater, but walking helps her think. It helps me listen. Beth's first idea was simple. Avoid H. I wanted more. Understanding her motives means predicting her moves. If we know what she values, we'll know what she does next. By afternoon, we were at Alex's. His house smelled of wood smoke. We didn't ask for much, just spent time letting him talk. He mentioned new faces in town, friends of H's, slipping into the community. That pebble sat heavy in my chest. Unikpic joined us for dinner. We told him about the 3 sites, swore him to secrecy. He leaned forward, eyes bright, and whispered, "This is real, isn't it?" He'll leave for Toronto in September, but tonight, he looked like he wanted the world to open right here, right now. When he left, he forgot one of his notebooks. I put it aside. And that was just the beginning of Chapter 5. The rest, the full read, the Hank interview, and the PDF, is waiting for premium Substack subscribers. For everyone else, stay tuned. Chapter 6 drops next month, and trust me, the story only grows deeper, stranger, and sharper from here. In the meantime, you can always grab the books on Amazon if you want to hold the story in your hands. So stay curious, keep your questions coming, and meet us back here for the next chapter. Before we close, a note on the nature of this production. The story you are listening to is based on the original fiction of Hank M. Greene, a pen name for an author who chooses to remain anonymous. All content is copyright 2026. Transparency is our protocol. This script was developed in collaboration with Google Gemini and refined by human hands. The voices were generated using Google AI Studio and stitched together in CapCut. Thank you for listening.